And I always tell people, don't be afraid of casting your line anywhere. As far as you see water and you think there's fish in it, just go and give it a cast. You never know what you're going to catch.
You are listening to Urban Wildlife Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Wildlife Podcast. This is one of your co-hosts, Billy Brown. Here we've got a in-the-field outing we did with Leo Sheng from Extreme Philly Fishing. If you haven't had a chance to check out his YouTube channel and other social media, do it. We had a great time talking to him, but to really catch the full energy of Leo Sheng, you gotta watch some of his YouTube videos. Sometimes I just turn them on because he cheers me up, not to mention the cool fishing that you see in the videos. This conversation is a bit Philly-centric, so apologies to our fans from other cities, other countries, but I think a lot of it still applies wherever you are. The ideas of going out there, not focusing necessarily on particular trophy species of fish, but fishing where you live and seeing how many species you can catch out of where you live and using that as a way to connect with our urban, our local biodiversity, the biodiversity in the water. As usual, if you like this podcast, please rate us highly on your podcast listening app of choice. Please tell your friends about it on social media, in person, however you want to do it. And please get in touch with us with your ideas, comments, thoughts, questions at urbanwildlifecast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at urbwildlifecast. Find us on Facebook. And now please enjoy the conversation Tony and I had at Cobbs Creek with Leo Sheng.
Little creek chip. It's got the scientific name Semotilus atromaculatus. It is one of the most common species of fish around the area. It is pretty much in all of our creeks. Yep. Beautiful little fella. It's got the golden stripe here on the side, a very strong black band that goes all the way from the operculum to the tail. Very aggressive and greedy fish.
So this is about, for those who aren't looking at it, this is it's in the water.
Yeah, it's in the water.
It's a 4-inch long, slender looking fish.
Yes.
And we just pulled it out at right below a storm sewer outfall for reference on Cobbs Creek at the border of West Philadelphia and Delaware County. I assume the fish was hooked on the Philadelphia side and pulled out of the water on the Delaware County side.
Yeah, and you know what? It's very interesting. That pipe over there, it's got a sign. Did you see that? There's got a sign right next to it that says danger, do not enter.
Yes.
Now, you know, right, the thing about signs is if people put a sign like that up there,
you want to enter. Yeah.
That means someone in the past.
You're talking to somebody
tried,
who's gone up sewer outfalls.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done it too. Oh, hello. That's a little red breast. This place is infested.
So this is a red-breasted sunfish. It's like a orange, what I would call like an orange chest, and sort of iridescent grayish sides and a black spot all behind the eye. Tell us, what is a red-breasted sunfish?
Yeah, so this is one of the sunfish that lives in the creeks around our area. It is part of the Centratidae family. There's about 4 different types that live around here, and this one in particular really likes the creeks. It likes fast current. It's a beautiful specimen. Not a lot of people actually know about the species, sadly,
Well, I think everybody sees them and says, oh, sunfish.
That's right. That's usually how it goes.
Even though there's 4 different kinds.
It is usually sunfish or panfish, and then the southerners, they call it the brim. People don't often know how to differentiate them. Yeah, but there are many different ones within the family.
Awesome. So do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Absolutely. Go ahead. I mean, I don't mind at all. That's what
And you just pulled in another one on the next cast.
Yes, this place has a lot of these.
And I think another one followed that one, and there are a couple of them. Are there 2 in the water right there?
Them right over there. So you can see them swimming around here too.
So how did you get into fishing?
You mean here in the United States of America or back in Brazil?
Brazil, sure.
Sure, yeah. So when I was a kid, my dad, this runs in the family.
And since you just mentioned that, you're from Brazil?
I'm from Brazil,
there you go.
That's right. I was born and raised in Brazil, in São Paulo, so the south of the country, right next to Rio. Yeah, and how it started is, it runs in the family. My family is originally from China.
Okay.
So we are originally from Qingdao, Shandong, China, which is in the eastern portion of the country. And my grandfather used to fish back there. He taught my dad, and then, I was born in Brazil, and my dad taught me.
Yeah.
So back in the days, this is what we used to do. My dad used to work 5 days a week, typical middle-class family.
Yep.
And on the weekends, he would take me to the local reservoir, and we would fish. That was our kind of family time back in the days, and that's how I got started. That was about when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. I came to Philly. I started at community college in Philadelphia for an associate's degree.
Yep.
And while I was here learning the language and the culture and adapting, I found the Schuylkill River right next to the community college. And since I had fishing as a hobby when I was a kid, I just bought, we call it the Walmart special.
Yeah.
You just go to Walmart and get the cheapest combo.
Yeah.
And I just got a rod reel combo and I got started over here.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the story.
Cool. And so, how did you get into doing this publicly? What switched you from being a guy who went fishing to a guy who started a YouTube channel, social media, all that?
So at the beginning, back in 2011 actually, the first 4 years, I just focused a lot on studying, getting my associate's degree. Then I went to Temple University for physics. But meanwhile, I started fishing. I noticed something, and that was that every time I was fishing the urban watersheds in Philadelphia, people would stop by and ask me, what I'm catching, right? And a lot of them actually wouldn't believe that the river had life in it.
Yeah.
So I used to catch a lot of channel catfish in the Schuylkill River, and people would stop by and be like, wow, I never saw this before. I thought this was polluted, right?
Yep.
I thought this was the sewage of the city. So back in 2011, I finally decided to start a fishing blog.
Uh-huh.
That was my first social media page ever. And sorry, I'm here catching the fish and they're falling.
No. This
And
makes for a great
the main
backdrop to the conversation. It's perfect.
Gotcha. And then, I started the social media, the blog, and the main objective was pretty much to inform people, right, of all the different species around the area, let people know, look, our urban waterways have a lot of life. It is not really as polluted as you guys think it is.
Exactly.
And this is how it really started.
This is the photo tank.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a little photo tank. So when I catch the smaller species of fish, less than 6 inches,
Yep.
they don't die on me.
I love fishing, but it's weird for a guy who's so theoretically not I always feel so bad about hooking fish and bringing them in. But every time I'm in a situation where I'm doing, I'm like, oh, I'm teaching kids. I guess I have to fish. This is the best thing in the world. I'm having so much fun. Or I'm in Alaska. I guess I'll fish because everybody else is doing it. And I'm like, this is awesome. My friend's like, let's go to Oregon. I'm like, oh, I feel bad about the fish. And just 10 minutes into it, I'm catching all these kokanee and a bull trout. But I never I never make it a point to fish on my own. But every time I really
You totally could.
I know, I really get into it.
I mean, you work on a creek.
I know.
Yeah.
I got a sing net though.
You could do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Leo, you're looking under rocks. What are you looking under rocks for?
Yeah, sometimes we flip them in the creeks to see if there are smaller species of fish that hide under it.
Okay.
Different species of fish like different habitats.
Yeah.
And some of them really like to hide under the rocks, especially the darters.
Okay.
And the sculpins. Here there are no sculpins, but sometimes there are some darters, the small ones.
And what's a darter?
That's a very, very small species of fish around our area. There's only one actually called the tessellated darter.
What does it look like?
Oh man, it's hard to describe. It is very small, long, slender. It's got a few vertical bars on its body with a very, very small mouth pointed downwards.
Okay.
It is perfect for sucking, the little organisms down the creek. And it is tough to catch. That one is really tough to catch. Yeah.
You have to pretend to be a caddisfly larvae stuck to a rock.
Ooh, we use hooks so small. I can show you. I have one over there, but the hook is so small. It is so painful to tie on your line. And even when you find the fish, you have to position the food right in front of its mouth, otherwise the fish won't feed. And the worst thing that can happen when you catch those types of fish is you caught it and it comes out of the water and then flips a few times and it drops right back, right? And then you just, sometimes there's only one, not like a school, right?
So you're making me think of some like micro fishing
This
like
is
articles or
precisely,
videos I've seen out of
yes,
Japan.
this is precisely what it is.
Yeah.
I do a lot of micro fishing around the area, and for a micro angler, there's nothing worse than that, believe me. It happened to me so many times. Sometimes you see a school of fish down there. There's like 30 of them,
Yeah.
and there's only one or two of the specific species you want to catch.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes the fish comes, bites your stuff, and you don't hook it right, but it fell the hook. That fish is not going to bite today again,
Okay.
right? So you missed the opportunity.
Yeah.
So like I said, the worst thing that can happen is when you find only one, and then you pull the hook, comes out of the water, right, and you're waiting to land it, and it flips right, yeah, it goes right back.
So, talk about multi-species fishing.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, like my flotation with fishing was mostly like when I would be in Florida visiting my grandparents, and I would fish for largemouth bass in ponds at their golf course. I imagine that was like single species fishing.
Sure, yes. We have a name in the community for what we do. It's called life listing. I didn't give this name. I don't know who exactly
It
named
comes from
it.
birding.
Oh, it comes from birding. Oh, there you go. So it's exactly what it is. It's all about what they call lifers, right? You make a list, and a lot of people have like a TXT list. Some of them have a database with photos, right? And you just go out there, catch the fish, and you start your own list, and you see how many species of fish you can catch in your lifetime.
When I went to Belize, I was there, and I went back to school in my 30s, and I took tropical marine ecology or tropical marine biology, and not realizing I had to go to Belize, and so I had to go to Belize for a week, no problem. But I went there and I was like, I'm going to treat this like birding. I'm going to try to see 100 species of fish, and no one else had ever who'd been to the marine center had ever done that, and they're like, really? I don't know if you get 100. And I got 120 something. But people were like, I'd be snorkeling, they'd be like, Tony, there's a remora on that nurse shark. Go get it. I'm like, there's a queen trick over here. And it was so I could totally see how to translate to fishing too. I saw an article, a guy for his 50th birthday went to the Keys and tried to catch 50 species of fish.
Yeah, a lot of kind of things happen. A lot of this kind of things
But these
happen.
are places like Belize and the Florida Keys, Ron. So what I find fascinating is you doing this in urban streams around major cities.
I mean, mainly because I'm stationed here right now. But now I'm traveling pretty much different parts of the country.
Sure.
Pursuing, different species.
Okay.
Yes. One question I have though. So how many birds you got? You got a list for the birds too, right?
Almost 1,800.
Almost 1,800?
Yeah.
And I mean,
traveled a lot. Yeah.
For your field, is that like a lot?
For my field, for a guy who doesn't live as a professional field guide and who isn't rich and just buys his way on the tours, that's a good list.
I asked that question because this is pretty much what happens in our community too.
Yeah.
I think the top 3 people around the world for life listing for fish, they only got 1,400, 1,500 fish.
Well, you actually got to catch them.
Yeah, you gotta catch
you
them.
Just see them.
That
Or
is
just
true.
hear them.
That is true. The fish, they always have to be caught. They always have to be caught by hook and line on the mouth. No snagging, no nothing. Just catching them legit that way, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's only 3 people in the whole world right now. With the community, we all know them, and one has about 1,500. The other one just passed 1,000, and there's a sketchy Canadian guy that nobody knows who it is. He's got about 1,200. Yeah, and everyone else is below that. I'm at 200 right now, so I'm still lacking a lot when it comes to that.
How many of those in the Philly area?
In the Philly area, I would say about 100 or so. Yes, maybe a little bit less, 80. Yeah, I have never counted.
But still, I think it would surprise a lot of people that in the 5th or 6th biggest city in the country, you can find 80 species of fish.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I've fished all around Philadelphia, all these little creeks. Right, today we are at the Cobbs.
Yep.
I've been already to the Darby, the Wissahickon, the Pennypack,
Yep.
the smaller ones as well, the rivers and the lakes.
What's your favorite spot?
In the city,
Yeah.
when it comes to size or when it comes to species? Well, I guess you could say that it's a Schuylkill River for both.
Okay.
Because you can walk very little to find so many different types of fish. Just like in Center City, Philadelphia, right over there, you have certain species of fish right under the Fairmount Dam that you can only find in the Fairmount Dam area.
Like what?
The walleye, the Zander vitreus, is right there.
They pull walleye out of there?
Yeah, they pull walleye out of there.
I grew up in the Midwest, so walleye was a big
The
deal.
community is very tight-lipped about the walleye, though.
Should I edit that out?
No,
or?
don't
Okay.
worry about it.
All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, nowadays it's very well known, but back
Yeah.
in the days, people wanted to keep it a secret because, as you know, a lot of people, they like to take the walleye home
Oh,
to
they're good
eat.
eating, yeah.
And the population here is not, the walleye is not as common, right?
Okay.
So people nowadays, we are always trying to enforce people to do what we call selective harvesting.
Yeah.
During the spawning season, of course, don't take it, right? Do
Yeah.
what is legal to do, don't poach.
Yeah.
Release the bigger ones, take what is in between, so
Yeah.
you have a sustainable population. We try our best to enforce that.
And releasing the bigger ones, I'm going to guess, but why would you release
oh,
bigger
yes,
fish?
to preserve the trophy genetics, right? Yes, if you have a basketball player, you know, and you have Leo from Extreme Philly Fishing here, and we both have a kid who has a chance of having a taller kid, right?
Yeah.
That would be the basketball player. Usually,
Yeah.
basketball players are tall, so it follows that logic. Right. So we follow that logic.
From your perspective, what's the most interesting thing you pulled out of the water in Philadelphia?
Oh man, that's a really tough question. I mean, you're talking about species, right?
Yeah.
I would say one of the oddest catches that I had over the years was a few years ago at the Pennypack Creek.
Yeah.
Now, see, this is something that someone did it illegally, but one person released all his pet fish into the
Wow.
creek.
Hey.
Right, we call those invasive species of fish. People
Yeah.
are not supposed
It's a bad idea.
to do that. It's
Yeah.
a very bad idea. So one day I was just fishing the Pennypack. I threw in an inline spinner and I caught a pacu, which is a Brazilian
Yeah.
fish, right? And it was about a 5 pounds pacu. So, you know, I'm from Brazil. When I saw it, I was perplexed, but I was super happy, right? I was like, what is a pacu doing in the
The
Pennypack
Pennypack,
Creek? So
yeah.
that was definitely one of my oddest catches ever
When I
around here.
caught just where I work, just up the creek,
Uh-huh.
I was, I got on my waders and there was a shopping cart, and I was
Oh,
like,
you told me about this, yeah.
and I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna pull the shopping cart out, and I pull it out of the creek, and there's a pleku
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like
flopping
a
around,
pleco, right?
flopping around in the shopping cart, and I was,
So for reference, this is like a algae eating,
South American bottom
South-
feeding, yeah.
right? That people keep in their
People think
tanks.
they're catfishing, but they're
Yeah,
not.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what to do. I just put it back. I mean, I probably should have taken it out or killed it or something, but
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
probably
all
going
right.
to die in the next
yeah, I just
cold winter.
Where was this at?
just a mile up creek,
Oh, from the cops?
in the Cobbs Creek.
Oh, in the
It's a
cops.
mile- yeah.
Yeah, so someone, you know, went there
Yeah,
and
yeah.
released the pet.
I'll say that. So then, what are your? Do you have a favorite or particular fish that you're like, just like that might not be rare, but like when you catch them, you're like, yes,
I mean,
Tony's belted kingfisher, you know, or my black rat snake.
I see. Yeah, I don't really have a favorite.
Okay.
I'm sorry to disappoint. A lot of people actually ask me this question on
Yeah, yeah.
social media, and I always
then
tell
you're always going to be happy.
right, and I always tell them, you know, when it comes to multi-species, and I think you guys, life listeners, will agree with me. Monotony is really bad.
Yeah.
You catch a few at the beginning, it's great of any type. You know, you're like, wow, this is super exciting. But then you start catching them all the time, and you just feel I just want something different.
The red-breasted sunfish kind of get in the way after a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when people ask me this kind of question, what is your favorite? I always tell them it is always something out there that is unknown to me. I'll be
Yeah.
happy with anything that I have never caught before. Doesn't matter the size, the shape, the color, right?
Yeah.
But as far as I see it and I've caught it and I've added to my list, that adrenaline just
You're looking for the
rushes
next
it.
thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any then remaining Philly targets
Yeah,
that
your
you're like
nemesis fish.
Oh,
your
Do you
whale,
call
as it were?
You have life lists in fishing, like we do birding, but we have nemesis birds. Do you have nemesis fish?
yeah, I mean, I don't really have one at the moment. I mean, there is one in particular that I have not caught in the Philadelphia area yet.
Yeah, what is it?
But I have caught the species elsewhere,
I know
and
what
that
you
is
mean.
the bowfin, the
Ah,
Amia calva. Yeah, the bowfin. If you go to New Jersey, you just travel a little bit to New Jersey and you go to the swamps, you can find them.
Yeah.
But here in Philly, it is just so rare. Sometimes people catch it at the John Hines Wildlife
I was going to say
Reservoir, Tinicum, right? But it is only during the spawning season where there's a few around. and they are there. So I have never caught one yet. Another
Okay.
fish, but this, I mean, I will leave it to you if you want to edit it out, okay? It is the sturgeon. The sturgeon are finally returning to the Delaware River.
We've talked about that before. Yeah.
Yes, but the thing is, scientists around the area, they just don't want anglers to know that they're back, probably because they're afraid.
Oh, we did a whole great article about it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what happened is my friend caught one last year, right? And someone
An Atlantic sturgeon
from,
or a
from
short-nosed sturgeon.
it was from the Delaware River. I'm not sure which kind.
Okay.
Okay, but someone sent him an email from the government agency to put the video down. Yes, you know, because they just didn't want the video on social media.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what type of sturgeon they
I'll see how
are.
I treat that. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't know what type of sturgeon they are, but once the shad swim up the river to do the spawning and lay the
Yeah.
eggs, you can see in the even in the non-tidal Delaware River, right at the tidal to non-tidal, you can see schools of 8 to 10 of them. Not big, on the smaller size, but they just swim around.
Those sound like the short-nosed sturgeon.
Oh yes, so probably
Yeah.
the short nose.
yeah.
But
we
I
did-
was fascinated. I never heard about this before until the past 3 years. And different anglers around the area, some of them have been sending photos in and
Yeah.
talking about it. Then finally last year I went to take a look. I didn't target them, but it's like wow, they're swimming around here. And that is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, the short nose. I only know this because we wrote the article about it.
Gotcha.
Atlantic sturgeon are the enormous ones
The
that
the short nose one is the one that looks kind of yellow orange in the water.
I don't know the color in the water,
I see.
but the short nose are smaller, which
I
might
see.
mean like 4 or 5 feet long. And then the Atlantic sturgeon are the ones that can get to be like 14 feet long.
Oh, I see.
And
Yeah,
weigh,
definitely not in
weigh
that. Yeah.
several hundred pounds.
I see.
And like the size of a small car.
I see.
And those got wiped out. They were targeted in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
For the caviar, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And so we sort of lost all our sturgeon in about 10 years.
Yeah, that sucks.
It sucks awfully.
Yeah.
They Atlantic sturgeon leap out of the water. And so if you read like naturalist accounts or like even newspaper articles from 1800s, it was like there would be articles about sturgeon jumping out of the water and landing like in the ferries crossing between Camden and Philadelphia.
That is crazy.
And so like, or just like right next to the ferry. It was just like a routine thing that in the spring you would have these freaking huge fish flying out of the water.
Wow, that's pretty
right by
nuts.
Philadelphia. But not anymore. All right. On that happy note,
I'd like to know about his gear. Have you ever talked about your
let's
gear?
talk about his gear. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, sure. I mean, today,
we all love to talk about our gear.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, today I just got my ultralight setup with me. So this is the ultralight setup that I use. Very light tackle for creek fishing. And the test line, I tend to use 2 to 4 pounds test line,
Okay.
fluorocarbon line. So because when I go out there, I'm not targeting specifically one species of fish.
Yeah.
So every fishing session, I really need to think about the range of the different species I am going to catch. From the
Yep.
smallest one, which is about 1 to 1.5 inch,
Yeah.
to sometimes a surprise catch that may be 5 pounds and above.
Yeah.
So taking that in consideration, this is usually the setup that I use. It is an ultralight fishing rod, which is very light line. The fluorocarbon is for a reason. It is partially invisible to the fish
Okay.
under the water, scientifically
Versus
proven.
like monofilament.
Versus monofilament and
Okay.
braided line. It's all about the physics and the refraction, index
Okay.
of refraction and everything. And this is what I use. Small hooks.
What's the brand again? You got it.
Oh yes, I got the Cascade Calamus with me today. I'm sponsored by Cascade,
There you
so
go.
I use their gear.
Try to get that in there.
Okay.
And we also were talking, we'll mention it again, you've
Mm-hmm.
got a small, looks like acrylic box with water in it.
Yes, right. This is what I call the photo tank. So this right here is the photo tank, and it is just a little tank that you can purchase anywhere. People can put fish in it, bugs,
Yeah.
anything that you
Is it
find.
called a photo tank? Is it like
I don't know. I mean, the lifer people in the fishing community gave it the name of photo tank,
Yeah.
but I don't. It's just an acrylic
People
box.
use that for tadpoles also. In the
Yeah, you
herping
can
world.
even put jewelry in this kind of stuff, but we use it for the fish.
Yeah.
I just would like to order one from the center, so because I do seining, and I like to put the fish in that.
To show the kids and stuff.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah,
so
see,
what-
this is the kind of
Well,
stuff you're looking
so
for.
what's the?
You can go to this website called tenkarabum.com. They got all the stuff that you need over there. I'm not sponsored by this, by the way.
What is it
That's
called
fine.
again? Tank.
Tenkara, like Tenkara, and then bum, BUM. The tenkara is from the Japan. It is a type of fly fishing that people use short poles to do in the creeks for smaller species of fish. And they usually have one of these. The community nowadays, they have one of these so that the fish doesn't die.
Of course.
I mean, one of the biggest factors for fishing dying is anoxia, lack of oxygen, right? So once you get the fish out of the water and we want to record it for our life list, a lot of people can be very picky about the photo. They want the photo to be very niche. They want the fins to show up. I was just talking to you about a species of fish in this creek, the spotfin shiner, that was very tricky to identify.
Yeah.
You see it down there and you know it is the spotfin shiner or the satinfin shiner because it's got white on the fins.
Yeah.
But you would be surprised. That fish, for you to properly identify it, you have to count the anal fin rays. And if there's 8 anal fin rays,
it sounds like you're working with salamanders. Yeah, I know how that is.
Yeah, and then if there's 9, is the other. So sometimes we really need one of these to put the fish in, just to make sure, that when you release it, the fish is fine. If it is a common species of fish, it's no big deal. Sometimes 1 or 2 dies, right? You don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah.
But when you are targeting a species that is protected or endangered, right?
Yeah.
Or there are very few of them around, you definitely want to make sure that they go back safe.
Okay, yeah. So I want to ask you one more question before I let you get back in the creek and
Sure.
fish. Talk a little bit about the response. I mean, like, to the YouTube channel and the social media. How do people react to something? I mean, it's Philly extreme fishing.
Yeah, this is.
In its way, it is extreme, but it's also like it is very Philly fishing. So like, how's the response been like?
So, where do I get started with this? Right, one of the things that people ask me a lot on the YouTube channel, right, and on all my social media platforms, is why I decided to name my social media Extreme Philly Fishing. Because most of my catches... Sorry?
I apologize for flipping it there. I said Philly Extreme is a little extreme.
That's okay, don't worry about it,
right.
Yes. And, people ask me that all the time because most of the species that I catch are micro species, right? And I always tell people that the extreme portion, right, the meaning itself is very subjective. For me, when you go out there to target different species of fish, explore new locations, right, and always go beyond your horizons when it comes, that is extreme.
Right.
So the response overall on social media for what I do, which is multi-species and life listing, has been overall positive. I would say 90-95% positive.
Okay.
It is not something that people know about overall. People are getting more into the trend nowadays. Now they know about the multi-species and the life listing. But most people in the community, they are still very species oriented.
Okay.
So my channel, when people come to my channel and they see that kind of stuff, there's always the public who embrace it and they're like, wow, this is new, this is cool. They go to their local bodies of water around the country and sometimes even outside, and they start finding all these different species of fish that they never knew existed around the area.
Yeah.
And then you have the other percentage of people who come to the channel and they're like, I'm not going to watch this, right? I want to catch.
They want to go watch some tarpon or something.
Yes, right. They want to go watch some blacktip H for like saltwater big fish, or they want to watch other channels on YouTube like the Guggen Squad for the largemouth bass. The bass community is like very big.
Yeah, they are.
So the responses are always like that. It's always overall positive, but there's always people who come and they don't mean any harm, but they're just like, I don't understand why he's doing this kind of stuff, right? I don't understand why he's standing in the creek and just flipping rocks and catching fish that are 2-inch that don't put any fight at all.
Well, I say this is incredibly accessible stuff, though. I mean, like, one of the frustrations of fishing, especially when you're a kid, is standing there for hours and not catching something.
Absolutely.
And so if you can come to a place near your house or near a nature center or whatever, and you can catch, especially working with, I mean, I enjoyed it 41, but like, especially with kids, and like pull and really quickly catch sunfish or catch whatever's in there. It's like an incredibly accessible way to interact with what's under the water. You know,
I would just ride my bike to Pennypack Park with an ultralight setup, with a bunch of like MEPs.
This is when you were a kid.
Like spinners or whatever. And because I really like lures rather than bait.
Yeah.
And I would just go in and just catch a mess of sunnies.
Yeah.
And it was like the funnest thing in the world. And had this been a thing then, I would have.
You might not be a birder.
might not be a boat.
But you know, when it comes to this question, I really appreciate all the feedback always on social media. Sometimes I get emails and messages and photos, and it is so rewarding. You know, people come and they show me a photo of this little cute fish, right?
Yeah.
Micro species, and they tell me, thank you so much for introducing me to it, because if you didn't, I would never have known, right?
Yeah.
That this species is around. So these years that I have been doing this on social media, little by little, you start to realize that the subscribers, the viewers, the people, they start to enjoy nature much, much more. They start to pay more attention to their surroundings, you know, that kind of stuff. And that for me is a beautiful thing. It's very rewarding.
That's why we do what we do.
Yeah, exactly. You know, with the birds and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Do people do saltwater microfishing?
Oh yes.
And to catch like fairy basslets in like a reef or whatever?
They usually go to the reefs. There are a lot of microspecies around there, or tidal areas in the back bays. But there are so many different types of killifish, even in New Jersey, that nobody ever heard about, right? Because for the saltwater anglers, they always refer to those as bait, regardless of species. And down in Florida, oh man, you got all those cute, beautiful, ornamental species
Everything
that people
in the canals,
yeah, people have those in their fish tanks, you know.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous. That's why I go to Florida every year, at least 3-4 times. Just as if you folks would go for reptiles or birds somewhere, Florida is like my paradise. I go down there, and you just know you are gonna slay all the species
something
down
weird
there.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you be your advice? One last question. Keep
Yeah,
picking
sure,
up.
that's fine.
It's like the Spanish Inquisition. What would your advice be to someone who's in Philadelphia, or let's say in any big city? Maybe they're in Phoenix, maybe they're in Melbourne. I don't know.
Sure.
And like, you're like, I never thought of this before. How do I get in? What should be my first step?
In order to get to multi-species fishing?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, just buy any type of setup, preferentially a light setup, you know.
Yeah.
Tiny hook, size 8, size 10 or smaller. One little piece of worm that you can find anywhere. And I always tell people, don't be
like
afraid.
Like a rubber worm.
Oh no, like a night crawler or
okay.
earthworm.
Yeah,
yes, an actual live bait worm, just to get started. Okay, later people can hop to yours, right, and get all the passion. But a live bait really works well.
Okay.
And I always tell people, don't be afraid of casting your line anywhere. As far as you see water and you think there's fish in it, just go and give it a cast. You never know what you're going to catch. Yes.
All right, cool.
Hey folks, hope you enjoyed our outing with Leo Sheng. Of course, make sure to check him out in his social media streams and channels, particularly his YouTube videos. You'll thank me and you'll keep watching them to connect with fishing, but also to just cheer yourself up with his intense energy for fish and for being outdoors and connecting with nature. Of course, also please check out the profile I wrote about Leo in Grid Magazine. And if you want to get in touch with us, please email us at urbanwildlifecast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at UrbWildlifeCast. Find us on Facebook. And of course, rate us highly on your podcast listening app of choice. Thanks.